There we go. Thanks for joining another episode of Playing the Artist, a weekly web show where we try to act like professionals and talk about things that we think we know about. My name's Antoine. Joined as always is handsome bedhead Alex.
Hello, good day.
Alex, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
I'm pretty dandy too.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
What's so good about why are you so handy dandy today?
Handy dandy.
Last week you were like a bit, I don't know.
I was saucy.
There's
I was
a fire burner.
sassy. It's because I wasn't working really. I wasn't really doing work. I was like preparing stuff for my event there, the 30 Days of Tiles.
Oh yeah.
Which is
now
going
underway.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So have you noticed a spike? Because the intent of 30 Days of Tiles is to make some new followers, make some new shit.
Yeah.
Grow your thingiverse, and maybe, I don't know, is there anything else you expect to come out of?
And my my mini factory as well.
Oh, you think how's that going?
It has been growing a little bit. Not as rapidly as Thingiverse, but it has been growing. But that's normal because I didn't have that many followers to start with.
Oh, cool.
So my mini factory has doubled. It was at like 26 and now it's like at 44.
Oh, your followers on my mini factory.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And last time I checked, I had I gained like 50 followers on Thingiverse, which is pretty good. So that was like in 3 days. So, once this whole thing is done, hopefully I can get I don't know, hopefully maybe 300. I bet I could get 500. That seems a little showboaty, but I think I could fucking do it.
500 Thingiverse 500 new followers.
Yeah, 500 new followers. I think I could do that. I think that's
cool.
Feasible. If I, keep my head to the grindstone, and when people ask me questions, answer them, and I think that's one of the most important things. It's when somebody asks you a question or sends a message or even says hey, I really appreciate this artwork. This stuff's great, or excited to see the next release or something like that. Just hit them back with a little oh, thank you for your follow, or thank you, just something, or just a thumbs up, or like I said, really simple, thank you. I think that matters so much because it shows that you're not just this robot entity. Or a business, you know what I mean? There's someone really behind the posts.
Yeah, I like to be sort of the last, in a little message interaction. I like to have the last comment, not to have the last word or anything. I just don't want anyone to feel left hanging, So if you're always you always end it with a thank you or a cheers or whatever the situation calls for. I don't want anyone to feel left out or they didn't bother coming checking in on me here or whatever. So
it's what it is.
Yeah, it's important to do. I mean, it's obvious, I guess. I would think, but maybe it is.
Well, no, just sometimes you just can't fucking bother with some questions. Some questions, it's very I don't know, the day's long and the day's almost done, and you get a message and you're ugh. This is so obvious. I shouldn't have to point you in this direction or give this answer. You know what I mean? But it's whatever. I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really been trying to, because with Patreon, you get questions a lot of the time. Because Patreon, just as it's designed, right, has all these exclusive posts. So a lot of your stuff is often to somebody who's not subscribed to you, when they go to your Patreon to think about subscribing to you, a lot of the posts are locked away. So a lot of your content is difficult to see. And so that's a lot of the comments I've been getting about questions I get are oh, I went to your Patreon and I wasn't totally sure, because you do have to, if you don't do the deep dive, clicking on the tier descriptions,
Yeah.
If you just do a quick scroll, like there's a lot of locked content there. So I've been really working to like find, okay, how can I sneak in stuff?
I think I have a solution to your problem.
Well,
I've thought about this too, though.
okay.
Like I think I might have to do this in the future.
Because you can't pin posts to people who don't subscribe to you.
Yeah.
Like if you're subscribed, you can have a pin post at the top that has like your blah 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 blah. But other than that, all you have is your about page, which you can definitely throw imagery into and everything. But that's kind of it. And then the posts are yeah. There's some other stuff you can do is like in past months, like if you've got a release that has come and gone, like April, for example, then you can remove the links to the files and then change that into a public post, so everyone can see like the update, they can see the imagery, but if they don't get, no one gets the files anymore, but you still see the activity, which is like really good for new people. But because I'm so new, I've only been doing it for a couple months. I don't have a big backlog of old stuff, so I think people are like, I don't know if they realize that, and that's why there's like not as much imagery of like work samples, because there's only I've only got like 4 models, and most Patreons have like
a gazillion.
Yeah.
A gazillion.
Yeah, man.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, so Artisan Guild does this. I don't know, you could maybe do it a different way, but they have a blog.
Mm-hmm.
And on their blog, there's probably like a bunch of information where they could just send people directly to. You know what I mean? When people have questions like that, like you were saying, like, but they didn't like look through these posts or whatever, and they ask questions where it's you just want to lead them to, instead of like writing a message each time it says like, oh, open up the whatever, you could just be like, oh, here's some more information about whatever, so you can give them like a page to send them to.
That's a great idea.
Because so there's a couple painters I follow, miniature painters I follow on YouTube, and I was checking out their websites, and they all have a page where it's talks about all the tools they use, like all the paintbrushes or the type of camera gear or the type of like whatever, like what they use. So when the question comes like, hey, what do you use for your camera setup? You just go to that link and link them, say a little thing that says like, here's a link to that information. Check it out. And it's like, then you click it and then it just tells all the information right there. Boom. Like the camera gear, the paint, the lighting setup, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
that's awesome. And it's good for people who maybe like, because not everybody asks questions, but a lot of people like to kind of just linger and kind of download that stuff and just look at it. And
you say that now, but once you start getting more people, it's going to start, it might start piling on. You know what I mean?
No,
and
definitely.
you do have that website, don't you? And if you're still going to use that website, you could do it through there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, because I need to like one of my tasks for my website for myself is to make Patreon more like just more of a focus of the site, like have a clear like feedback loop back to Patreon. And I think if I did it in like sort of a kind of blog form, like you said, and like a little FAQ of like what the content is, just I don't know, just whatever people have been mentioning, just try to clear that up. I think that's that gives me a good direction to go to, because I was just going to add some links before, which is definitely good to have as well. But I think a bit like more of like a dedicated info page is like even better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll do that. And I don't know, we'll see. I'm so busy right now. I'm still working on.
Me too.
I'm still working on this release, and I'm I'm really trying to get it done by the 15th. But I pretty much have all the writing to do. Left. That's basically it. I just need to do the writing. So I got 3 days, but I don't know. It takes time to write and then, revise and think about what you wrote, and then, it's good to put it down and then come back and read it again and see if it still makes sense, and or have somebody else read it, right? I have a friend who's like a very skilled DM. He's got a lot of experience. He's like a seasoned. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's been creating like his own. He's been doing his own world building for a long time as well. So I really trust his input, and he's got lots of ideas. Like, because if you have a high level idea that's like, okay, this monster needs to just, he's like one of my characters is like, he's kind of got this sickness to him, and when people are around him, they feel sick too. And that's the high level idea. But you can describe that feeling in a number of different mechanics. It's like, people, they roll disadvantage for healing, or they take some sort of, persistent, damage while they're in his presence. Like there's like a ton of different ways to represent that. And some of them are really, they're all communicated slightly different too. So I like to always bounce that off of him. Yeah, because I don't know. It's good to have somebody like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just kind of have a second. Even Sam, having a second look at my work, and as somebody who's like, that doesn't look right, or like with this character I just did now, she's like this fantasy slutty nun kind of character, and Sam's
don't use slutty.
critiquing the makeup and all that stuff, and it's pretty handy to have. What are you up to there?
I'm French pressing.
Oh, I see. Did you sleep in this morning?
Sort of.
Yeah.
I went to bed late. I was watching a documentary called Far Out Isn't Far Enough. And Gavin recommended it. I watched it, and it's this illustrator that I don't know, he just has a very interesting life and did a lot of interesting things. And his philosophy on life is pretty moving and inspirational. And being a creative individual, trying to be creative or whatever. It was fun to watch, and it got me in the mood, and it kind of reminded me like, oh yeah, and I know why I'm doing this and whatnot. I really highly recommend it. I don't want to say too much because I feel like saying too much will spoil, or saying even little will spoil the whole package. But it was good, and I really recommend it. Also, I just bought a new video game, Knights and Bikes. It was on sale.
Knights and Bikes.
And it's pretty fun, and I'm really enjoying it right now. I know it's an online multiplayer, but the art and the writing is written so good. Like the writing's so good. The characters are so silly, and the world is so like kind of mysterious. Like there's a sense of like, when you're playing a video game when you're a kid, and there was like, I want to see what's around this corner. You know what I mean? I get that feeling when I'm playing it.
Oh yeah.
And that's a feeling I haven't felt in a video game in a long time. So I'm really enjoying it. And also, it's so creative and different, and it has so much like charm to it, and you can really tell. So sorry to go on a tangent here about video games. It takes place on an island, and then later I found out that the creator that made this game lived in Ireland. And one of the things he used to do when he was a kid, he used to run around with his friends and just like go in the bush and just like go on adventures and like flip rocks and ride bikes and stuff like that. And like that's the whole premise of the game pretty much. You're like on an adventure, and you there's a curse that gets loose, and then it takes household items and turns them into monsters. So like these golf balls, this is the first enemy you encounter. These golf balls turn into like little hedgehog demon things. They like roll towards you as golf balls, and then they turn into these like little brown hedgehog demons. And the game's just loaded with charm and character and skill, and I'm enjoying it. And I only played like 20 minutes last night. It was great. Definitely gonna play some more. And you know what, man? You totally forget that you can't just be. It's like The Shining. Did you watch The Shining with me and Gavin? No, you weren't there. It was just me and Gavin.
I don't know. I've seen it quite a few times, so.
Yeah, I only saw it twice. And the first time I was like in grade 1. Anyways, there's a Jack, the maniac, the guy that goes says he does this. He writes this thing over and over again. It says, "All work, no play." Something Jack. I forget. There's like some
Makes
sort of
Jack a dull boy, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of truth in those words, because playing Knights and Bikes and watching that documentary, or just watching movies, I always feel afterwards so much more energy to be creative and to not necessarily creative, to get work done. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very. I think it's very healthy for the soul to, be entertained.
It puts you in a different environment, right? Like,
I would say it takes you out of your environment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Your day in, day out is the same thing, and sometimes it's like, even if it's really enjoyable, like 3D printing is like a really fun hobby and stuff, but. Yeah, to be doing to just wake up and just continue where you left off yesterday, it's like doing that day after day.
Sometimes it gets tiring.
It's like, what? That's why I think traveling is good too every once in a while, because you really are put like literally in a physically like different space where everything is like looks different, smells different, and tastes different.
Yeah,
and it's like really refreshing, and it's just cool. It's just. I never really appreciated it when I was younger, but now it's like, I don't know. Especially like the weirder the country, or like not weirder, but like the more different it is.
All countries are weird, man. Everybody has weird customs.
Yeah,
like even the places that are full of white people, we'll go, like around the world, they're different. You know what I mean? Like Scotland, Ireland, the UK, France, Spain, Russia. Poland, like all those places are very, very unique. They're all white people, but they're all very different, unique, with their own like stories and music and food, and you know what I mean? Like it's very, very different.
Mm-hmm. But like going to like Hawaii versus
going to wow, this is the thing though. That's a tourist place. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a lot of culture in Hawaii as well. The tourism. There's a lot of tourism in Europe as well.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. But
it's like Hawaii is like, it feels like kind of like an Asian country in a way, but at the same time, it's like US. It's like, there's still like McDonald's and stuff everywhere. And I guess there's, even in like Thailand, there's McDonald's, but it's like, I don't know. There isn't football on TV at the bar or that sort of stuff.
So I was gonna say, but the Hawaii thing's different though, because like that's like their main source of income is tourism. So they want people to feel comfortable and keep going. So it's like, this is what I've never been, but this is what I've heard, where it's like there's like the hotels, and then there's the people of Hawaii. You know what I mean? Then there's like, it's like a completely like cut off. There's like, there's like white people at hotels and people around the world. Come to Hawaii, but they're really just experiencing the beach and the resort and like maybe a little bit of the wildlife a bit, like the jungles and whatnot. But like then there's the people, like they have a completely different look on Hawaii. I bet they probably have so many cool spots where it's like, tourists don't come here because they have to like trek out. It's a little harder to come out, you know what I mean? And like nobody talks about it, right? There's probably like cool stuff like that. So it's like that would probably be, that's very different than like, you know, being at the resort and then you're at a bar,
for sure.
at the bar and drinking a Bud Light beside somebody from Ontario. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's not really Hawaii. That's just a place where all the people come to visit in Hawaii go.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii's kind of nice because you can go explore those places.
Yeah.
Whereas if you went to Mexico or Cuba, like, I don't know, I just am a little bit more like hesitant about exploring because like you never know if you're just gonna wind up. Like, I know I'm not gonna like stumble into a drug war in Hawaii, most likely. I mean,
that's true.
I'm sure I'm not saying it's a utopia or anything, but like,
somebody might beat you up for your skateboard or steal your Vespa. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe like crimes like that, maybe. But
there is like that, you know, you feel pretty safe there. Whereas like some of these other destinations are like you're safe if you stick to the resort and like the touristy areas, but then if you start going beyond that, you can get yourself into hot water. Which is a shame because Mexico has some amazing.
Mexico is so fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, it's in Mexico, you're fearful of like all the like the drug cartels like you hear on the news. Yeah. And in Cuba, you're feared about the government because they're gonna like take your passport and shit and like be like, what are you doing here? Why do you have the internet?
I'm a little less afraid of Cuba, but at the same time, I still respect this communist regime that is like has a strong military history, or at least a militaristic sort of.
You don't want to be. You don't want to be. You know. You don't want to be doing any shenanigans down there because they might keep you for a while, and then before you know it, you might be in a.
Like they're not electing any Trudeaus in their parliament, you know.
We're getting too political. We gotta stick to art. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that kind of bringing it back is like anytime I look for reference on dungeons and like, you know, environments that are like kind of medieval fantasy, like kind of cool locales, it's always from Mexico. It's always like this old overgrown ruins from Mexico of like, you know, stonework and like catacomb kind of overgrown stuff. It's always like a wicked old structure in Mexico, and that's why I'd love to just go and like explore that for real and see what it really feels like to like crawl through the dungeon.
I'm sure there's probably like a bunch of like cool.
There's some in Europe for sure, right? That's where I was expecting.
Well, you can go to France and you can go to the catacombs in France.
Yeah.
It's just full of bones, right, and skulls.
Oh yeah, that would be right.
Those are actual people.
Yeah.
It's insane. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was back on the topic of art and whatnot. So I've been wrestling with the idea of my next Kickstarter and whatnot, and very kind of like weighing my options. Where it's like I want to get a Kickstarter out this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like thinking and working on like trying to flush out my idea of like, okay, this is how I want it to kind of look like and feel. And then from that, you know, there's going to be, you know, like how much work has to get done like in between that. Right. Because like I could go down different routes, and different routes, you know, might be a lot quicker, but it might mean that, you know, the Kickstarter has to be significantly smaller depending on like what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So, I'm still going with that same initial idea that I had, but what I'm doing right now is I'm actually blocking out the models, and I'm gonna start probably ZBrushing here probably tomorrow. And I want to try to get like a couple pieces. Like I got a couple pieces I picked out that could be combined together and whatnot, and like make something. And it's 4 pieces. 4 pieces, and two of them are tiny pieces. And so I want to try to hit almost like I guess like good morning, Sam. Hit like a target where it's like, okay, this is the feel I'm going for, and this is like the kind of like amount of detail I'm going for, and then from that initial model and sculpt, like that will be like the reference point where it's like, okay, it has to kind of have this vibe, and it has to, you
always have something to go back to. And
and it's something that I did, right? So I know that it's like, oh, I've done this before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also for me, it gets it more physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I could say like, I could take all the reference photos I want and be like, I want it to look like this and blah blah blah. But I still have limitations. Like I can't just be like, think the thing and do the thing and then it just comes out perfect, right? There's compromises that happen, right? Where it's like, well, fuck, that didn't work out. Like, how can I fix this where I can get something out of it? You know what I mean? Or like, how can this work even though the 3D printing aspect is like a dilemma, right? Where it's because I still want all these stuff that this new Kickstarter, same thing. I want it to be so you don't need any supports.
Yeah.
And you can just take it off the print bed and boom, you're ready to go to paint it or just use it right away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So like that shows up, you know what I mean? And so if I get like a good idea of like those first initial models, then I can like kind of build off of that little set and then grow it from there. You know what I mean? But I need that kind of like set foundation. And I've always worked better in like, I always get to a destination if I sit down and do the work. I might have to like maneuver around it and like delete something or like start over something, but I feel like I know that I get to my destination faster if I just kind of sit down and stumble and make mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't
go ahead.
Put too much pressure on yourself with this first model to be like, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be the best.
I know that. I know that. I just need to make it, and I got to just try to hit a quality and a feeling that I want, and then I'm like, this is cool, and I can work with this. Now let's make some more stuff that's just as equal or better. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're lucky. Like you're in a way, like you're not a team of 20 artists, so you don't have to. Like a lot of the reason in production you make the original visual target is like because so many different people are going to be working on it. You need to keep everybody in line and like on the same page. But when you're the only artist, you are you, and you make the same decisions in the same way every time. So there's like this inherent, theme that's going to just come through. And I think that's like pretty important. And I think like sometimes too, having too rigid of a visual target can also iron out all of the or some of the variety that might happen, because there's Lego, which looks, is the same all the time. You know what to expect, and it's always everything, and that has a very feel, right?
Bionicles.
But then there's like when you imagine Lego, exactly, you can picture everything in your mind. But then when I say heavy metal magazine, and maybe you're familiar with that, maybe you're not, but or let's say magic cards, there's a broad range of like style there, but there's also still sort of like a cohesive, when you see something that looks like a magic card, that looks like that could be a magic card, or that is a magic card, like that looks like from that universe. But they're able to maintain this really broad range of like looks and appeal, and I think I think that's more fun. And I think sometimes like on some games, some of that fun can get ironed out, or some projects. But I mean, that's just me. Yeah. And I don't know. Some people do it well, some people don't. But you're always gonna, because you're the one doing all these models, you're always gonna have the same. You can't really hide your voice in a way, and so that's good. But there's one more thing I wanted to say, but now I'm forgetting about it. But the other thing is you're going to find that is like, once you get to your like 15th model, you're going to be like, man, I'm really good at this now. And like my 15th one looks so much better than my target.
That happened in my first Kickstarter. That happened on District 0012.
Yeah.
And I had to actually go back and like, I actually got rid of some models and I actually fixed some models just to make so they were a little bit more on par with my newer ones.
Yeah.
And well, it's because in the process, things happen, like accidents happen, right? Where you're like, oh, what happens if I rotate this thing? And you're like, that's cool.
Yeah. It's so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it happens where you're just like, okay, I got to go back and I got to fix this fucking thing.
Yeah, totally. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's fun. I mean, it's scary to make a large project like that, you know?
You know what though? I think this project might be just as big.
Well, the last one was pretty big.
It was pretty big, but I think, but what was nice about that one? Sorry, the last one was big, but there was a lot of big pieces where they had to be really fleshed out, and I really had to like give it like it was like a there were a lot of big pieces
physically
and
big as well.
And that's more surface area to model and try to make interesting to 3D print. And in this one, there's going to probably be a lot more smaller pieces, but it's fantasy based, so there has to be a sense of like this is a functioning, working thing, and I kind of know how stones work and look, right? So there's that element, and also a lot less flat surfaces. So there's going to be a little bit more time put into
that's right.
Details. But I'm not entirely worried about that, because once I get a couple models, because I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but once I get like, if I'm doing like a set of things and I make a couple bricks, I can take those bricks and move them to the next piece if it's a piece that's
you
the same.
To.
Oh yeah. There's no
and if you like, I find whenever sometimes I do that, but sometimes I think I'm just gonna just make each one kind of, and when I do that, it's like you find it's like, for one, it's like not really fun to just keep doing the same thing you just did again, just slightly differently. You get kind of bored, and so you're like, oh, what if I do this? What if I do that? What if I do this? Then it starts to drift over time. And like, luckily, the work I do is pretty small, so you don't really even notice it. But if I were to do a big project like that, then you would, you would be surprised how much a brick can be done in a different way. Like, everybody's got their own way of doing it, even though it's just like a fucking block of stone. Yeah, a lot of people represent it in their own way, and it's like you can have a lot of variety even amongst yourself that maybe is not like super ideal. But like, I find that people, there's a lot of, at the same time, the same brick being modeled, where I don't see a lot of walls where it's like, when I look at reference, a lot of times in old dank dungeons, there's like a brick, and then on top of that brick, there's like a layer of plaster, but then the plaster is chipped away in places. So then you see this layer of like, kind of that crude plaster, but then there's a brick pattern underneath. And then some walls that look like that for like, the whole way. And it's like something different, but everybody goes to the brick, the kind of, that you'd imagine, the brick pattern, like kind of, the offset brick pattern, big chunky blocks. And it's like, there's a lot more stonework in the world than just that. And it's not really explored very much. So I don't know. That's why I walk down the street and I'm like, I notice, like, especially in New West where we live, it's like the oldest city in the Lower Mainland, right? Like, this is the royal city, and it was the first one that they were really established, and was the original capital and stuff. So even still, there's some old buildings here that have some kind of interesting brick patterns. It's not the biggest city, obviously, but there's still inspiration to be taken. It's pretty cool to see that stuff. But I don't know where else you go. Victoria has some old buildings as well. I'm sure there's some downtown.
You know, it's the worst part. No one will give a shit because it's just bricks.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "What's this? Bricks? Yeah, okay, whatever."
Yeah.
But I worked really hard. Look how stylish they are. It's like, yeah, whatever. The bricks. They're meant for cool. They're meant for cool characters to stand on or stand behind.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like if some DMs, a lot of DMs are pretty crafty. Like they're sort of the most, like they're the most engaged ones at the table if they're the guys designing this stuff. So if anyone I think has an eye for it, it's usually them. And they're the people printing and doing all this. So yeah, I don't know. I think that they've got a good sense of taste, and you can tell what, you know, by which projects get funded and which ones don't on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's you can definitely tell the sense of quality, you know.
Yeah.
Some person makes a wall and it's just a flat plane with like some extrusions, and then the other person where there's like bevel and there's depth and there's like little cracks and there's some damage and there's some rubble on the ground. All those things, you know, it shows. There's a clear line between novice and I guess you could say professional.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, man. I think it'd be fun to make a big old catacomb or whatever. I don't know, some kind of place to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a different life, I would have done that, but I don't know. It's time consuming as heck. How many months do you think you'll spend to create this thing? Are you thinking about that, or are you
I have no idea. I'm just trying to figure it out and get the work done. And then once there's more of something established, then there'll be a better idea on like when I can get this thing out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's cool. I think like, yeah, because you can plan a project by like saying I have this much time to make something, and so then you can plan within that box. Or you can say I have this vision and it's going to take this amount of time. Like, you know, you need one of the variables first to really plan it out properly.
Yeah.
But I think working in the way where you develop the vision and then like think of the timeline second and then make adjustments only if the timeline is really ridiculous and doesn't make sense and like would put you into next year, then that's fine. But without having to say like fill up this year, you know, without planning something that launches on December 31st and no earlier would be maybe, you know, no need for that. But yeah, that's cool. So you're going to be indoors a lot this summer. You're going to be modeling.
We all are, my dude.
I still get out there. I still go for walks.
Yeah, me too, man. I went for a super long walk yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, something I noticed that that was really weird. I could feel when I walk. I'm walking for like over an hour, and I could feel the blood pooling up in my hands, and it feels very unnatural. Because I'm walking and my hands are at my side, right? So all the blood is just pooling down. And when I'm working, my hands are up here, like on the keyboard, right? So like the blood's leveled out. So it shows you that I've been working at the computer very long.
Just you swinging your arms around a little bit is like
like I could feel my hands feel like I'm wearing mittens. That makes sense.
I notice my feet, like when I go for walks and stuff, and then I come back or run or whatever. Like more so than before, my feet are just burning. They're like, I don't know, maybe they're full of blood as well. It's like
burning.
I don't know. They're like,
sounds like you have athlete's foot. That's what that sounds.
They're not itching, burning. They're just like, just got hot feet. You know, it's just like I gotta take my socks off.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, man. You're smushing blood like in that area, and it's pumping.
Yeah, it's lingering there.
Yeah. Fuck. I'm
in this chair way too much, man. It's like
me too.
I don't know. And you know, I could at the same time I could see myself doing even more art, because there's sometimes I'm like, I don't know, out doing whatever, like grocery shopping, like I'd rather be modeling right now or something. And but even still, even like I fucking sit here so much. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that's every fucking artist, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's important to have like little areas around your house to like sit down differently and chill or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I have my lounging chairs, my IKEA lounging chairs, and like sometimes I'll just like pop in there and just chill out, read a book or whatever.
I almost wonder if it's worth the time. Like, you know, when you work at an office, you've got to get there, and then you do the work, and then maybe at lunchtime you get up and you go somewhere else, which I'm doing now.
Yeah,
but then it's like
that's awesome.
What I'm missing is the morning, a little bit of a walk in the morning, and a little bit of walk at the end of the day. It's almost like it would be good to get out, like, because right now I'll get outside at lunchtime or after work, one of the two.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting out there one time per day, but I think like maybe you have like a 15-minute walk before work, almost like you're walking to work, and then like you're breaking it up a little bit more, but not necessarily with like a massive walk or a massive run or like a big like an exercise, but just kind of like bookending your day with some activity, because like we just sit. I only have to take like 5 steps to get to the washroom or like to get a snack. Yeah, it's not like at EA where I'm walking all over the office here and there and meeting with this person.
Especially when you have to play musical toilets on some days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. So now I'm walking 3-4 floors, looking for one.
They're all full.
And they all stink like shit.
Oh my God. It has to, some days it was just awful. Just awful. I just noticed like my hair is like super balding. Like it seems like it's migrating. It's like almost like a medieval like battle, and like right now they're like surrounding this one tuft of hair and they're like trying to segregate this part. Like traveling
they're also
here,
kind of cutting up through the middle too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's like fucking
there's a second flank happening.
There's a battalion going here, and there's 2 fucking flanks, and they're just like,
get
rid of this hair, get them down, slaughter these hairs.
Those hairs. We'll fight up to the end.
Yeah, I'll be happy once this tuft is like, I don't have to deal with this as much. This little tuft, you know what I mean? Because I look at this and I just feel so ridiculous.
Get it lasered off.
Get my whole scalp lasered.
I think if you had that tuft lasered off, you'd have like that Randy Couture kind of pattern where it's
where it just has
just a cranium up front, but then you got the surrounding kind of stubble. Yeah, and then you could look like Jason Statham or somebody. Maybe Jason Statham has that tuft and he just is like on top of it.
He definitely shaves his head all the time. I've thought about just being a Bic boy, where you just Bic it every second day. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just use the head shaver. But it'd be a lot easier to use the Bic, because the head shaver is, it's kind of a deal where it's like I have to like stand in the tub and I gotta shave, and I gotta then go to the side and look into the mirror and be like, okay, here.
Yeah.
Because there's no plug in my bathroom, so I have to use an extension cord from my little living room area. I have to bring the extension cord into the bathroom to use the damn thing. It is what it is. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just wear more hats.
That's fine. That's good too.
I suppose so.
All right. So what do you got going on this week? What's next week?
I pretty much just I'm just continue on with the releases, and I'm just working towards the next Kickstarter, trying to flesh it out and get an idea of like the feeling and what I want to make and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So how do you do? Do you make silhouettes, or you do your mood board, or do you like what is that? Is there a deliverable? Like, is there like your
Well,
plan.
before all of that, it's the story.
Yeah.
Before
Okay.
all of that, I'm trying to figure out the story. Because not at the last minute, but like in the once like a lot of the modeling was starting to like, I was getting all these models done, and I was reading that book, All Marketing is Storytelling. I was like, oh, I need to tell a story, and that's why I like introduced all this like alien monster infected terrain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that was the storyline. The storyline is, it's the place and there's a fucking infection. There's like a story, and so I still need to figure out what's the story behind this little world I'm building, so that I have something to present and tell the audience or the viewer when it comes in their view, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully from that story, they tell them their in the book. It talks about the book I just mentioned. It talks about it doesn't matter if the story is actually real. What matters is that the person that says it believes it's real, right? They tell themselves it's real by repeating the story.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many different ways. There's like like the District 0012. There's like the story there of like the like what's with this terrain, right? And then, but for this one, I'm literally built like a new system on how you could like build a dungeon. So like that's a story right there too, where it's like, look at this new system that's never been done before of tiles, and you can like make this interesting patterns in like different levels or whatever. Like that's a story. But I still want to give a little bit of a story where there's like, okay, what's this world or what's this terrain I'm looking at? Like what's the story behind it? Because I really do believe like that book was, I think you should read it. I think it's so valuable because like when you think about everything you've bought in your life that's like non-essential or even essential, you've first told yourself, okay, why are you getting this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Endor 3 that I got, my 3D printer.
Yeah.
I got it after watching like videos on it and watching other people use it and stuff like that. And they were saying like, oh, it's the price point and it's like this and it's really easy to do and you get blah blah blah, and it's like, and I was telling myself this story of like all these different things that were happening to it. You know what I mean? But other people were telling me, and I convinced myself like, oh, this is why I'm buying it because of A, B, C, and D. And someone could say, this is why I'm buying it because this, or this is why I'm involved because of A, B, and C, D, and that could be, lightsabers, stormtroopers, and Darth Maul, right? They tell themselves these points why they're invested into this story or this idea or anything, and yeah, I think that's more powerful than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
That's my rant about storytelling.
Storytelling.
So, yeah. So there's different ways to tell stories, but it's very key on telling. Not telling. It's a very key to have in anything you're trying to promote or give or sell, I would say.
Well, yeah, it gives you like kind of a bit of a reason for all the choices you make. So maybe not making any choices randomly. You have like, the printer is shaped this way because of this and this and this, and it needs to do this and this and that. And
yeah.
So the more like reasons you have behind, if you ever have to make a decision and you're like, oh man, it seems like a coin toss, I'm just not quite sure which way to go, then you need to like, the last thing you want to do is actually make that decision in that moment.
Yeah.
You want to just like put that down, think about, what could influence that decision, or, do some storytelling if that's where you're after. But
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Never. Yeah. Go ahead.
I guess we touched on this already, but So have you seen the Todd McFarlane's Kickstarter?
No.
Spawn.
Maybe I have. It's the new anime or something? A new animated?
No, it's an action figure.
An action figure. Oh,
yeah.
No, okay, I haven't seen this.
And I think he raised almost $4 million Canadian. So about three something American.
That's amazing. For one figure.
One figure, but there's a bunch of add-ons because they unlocked a bunch of shit. But also, like, he's giving like actual autographs, like little plaques that he's signing and stuff like that at a reasonable price too, for like $80 Canadian. Like,
wow.
you get his figure and then also like an autograph of his like a little thing.
Do you wonder how many he has to sign? Thousands.
Well, it's putting roof over his head, right? So yeah. I'd be more than happy to sign all those too.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. What was I going to say? But I've been a little bit on a Todd McFarlane tear, and I came across a documentary called "The Devil Within," and it was it was like Access TV or whatever. It's like publicly funded, documentary, Canadian documentary actually, because it turns out Todd McFarlane is Canadian. He was born in Canada.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then he moved to the States. But anyways, I noticed just like from his like Instagram or like the way he talks and like the way he like holds himself, he's really what's the word I'm looking for? He's very like grateful, which is pretty amazing. Like for someone like at the time, like I don't know if anybody that's going to listen to this like, who the fuck is Todd McFarlane? But like at the time, like he was like a superstar and he was making a lot of money for drawing comic books.
He's one of the his name really got out there.
Yeah, and just to see him like do all these like this Kickstarter, you know what I mean? Like doing the thing where he could have released this Spawn action figure with all these other accessories and be like, yeah, whatever, we'll just cut a promo. But in the Kickstarter, it's him in every video talking to the camera, being like, oh, you'll get this, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And he's like really like behind his product, and he's really and he's not just selling Spawn, he's almost like selling himself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's done that throughout his whole career with like autographs and stuff like that. Like he would like show up to like things and stay there for hours and just like autograph like everything for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And he was very kind of like, I don't know, like the first, I guess you could say he was like, not the first, but like the way he held himself was like almost like a YouTube personality in a weird way, where it's like, shaking, or like a politician. I guess more of a politician where he's like shaking everybody's hand. He like
I don't think he's that calculated about it. Like I think he's really a genuine guy. I watch his Facebook Live videos quite often. He'll give you like a 2-minute drawing tutorial. Yeah. They're really awesome. It's so good.
He gives everybody time. But what I mean by that is, what I mean by politician, I mean when a politician is doing a run for president. He's
campaigning.
Yeah, he's campaigning. But this is the thing, though. His campaign is just him being him. You know what I mean? Like, like you just said, like, oh, he does a little drawing tutorial really quick, or he signs everybody's things, or he's autographing all these plaques for this Kickstarter. You know what I mean? And or he's right in front of the camera, in front of his product, and he's like,
yeah.
And it's just kind of him being like, oh no, this is me, and this is what I do, and blah blah. And
I think you're
give
right,
you the time, and the reason why I said we kind of hit on this was like me answering every email or answering every message I get on Thingiverse or Instagram, just putting it out there, being like just like shaking hands, being like, oh, thank you, blah blah, oh blah blah blah, or give them a little bit of time. You know what I mean? Because like the payoff is that you get a fan for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like the cons, you answer the person's question, and you give them a little bit of your time, and then they just forget about you, and that's it. And the pros are just so great, where there's that person says like, if you give that person a little bit of your time or just or being thankful, then the most powerful thing will happen, which will be word to mouth, right? Because when you tell me like, hey, you should check out this video or check out this game or check out this movie or whatever, you know what I mean? There's a much better probability that I'm going to actually do that or actually look at that thing because you're my friend and I somewhat trust you,
Yeah, you trust your friends more than some advertisement.
Exactly, right? So, and he's been like doing that his whole fucking life, and at his old age, he's like still on top. You know what I mean? Like he's still making fucking things. He's still like shucking and jiving and being like, yeah, like this is what I do and blah blah and stuff. And like,
I think he's a really good blueprint for how to like actually
hold yourself
as an artist.
Artist and a businessman as well, because that's what he's doing as well, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's he's not like somebody. You don't get this chairman of the board kind of sense like you do with somebody like Dana White or.
Yeah, well, no, but also like he said this in his documentary where he was like, I do my artwork and my toys and all that stuff so I can do more artwork and toys. Like it's this whole big cycle where it's like it's just this kind of like what's the word they use, like
feedback loop?
Yeah, feedback loop. Like it's just kind of all kind of piles on top of it, you know what I mean? And and he's been blessed, and I know he knows he's blessed. Because he can keep doing the damn thing, you know what I mean? Like Spawn has been going on for a long time, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the comic book and like the merchandise and all that stuff.
Spawn and Venom, like holy shit, Venom is like one of the craziest characters ever. Like it's so successful, and it was like something that was a new idea.
Yeah,
and it was so much was his design.
Yeah, when you think about it, like the shit he's like, all the new characters that came out that he made around his era, you just know the golden age heroes, right? Where it's like, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, like all those people that have been like invented in the 70s or the 50s. You know what I mean?
He broke the kind of pajama superhero mold, I think, and
most definitely
created these like just like really interesting characters, but still felt like comic book characters,
Oh yeah,
still
for sure.
Felt like they still had those really graphic designs to them with like really clear color patterns and stuff. But
he said something really. I recommend the documentary, The Devil Within. He said something really interesting where it was just like, I'm just trying to make shit look cool. You know what I mean? And that's at the end of the day, that should be. So, well, I think in a comic book sense, or even in like a fantasy sense, or game sense, like just make stuff like feel and look cool, and on top of that, if you have like that, the game I've been playing, Knights and Bikes, right? Like the gameplay is fun, but let me start over. The art style is super cool. It just looks cool. Like you're running around this world. It feels like a children's book. Like you're running around this like colorful children's book, and it's really moody and stuff. So it's just cool looking. And then the characters, and then the charm, and then the gameplay. Like then all that is just extra. But like if you got some cool fucking looking shit, like that's a good entryway to like just like take the first step. And then you're like, oh, holy shit, look at all this cool stuff. Like when I first saw Spawn when I was a kid, I was like, oh, he's this cool, like fucking cool dude with guns and a cape, and this is so cool.
Yeah,
and then,
he's got every cool thing on.
Yeah, he got spikes, he got machine guns, he got swords, he got
chains, he got chains,
skulls, he got skulls. And
there's nothing. He's just missing like a sexy lady on his shoulder, like sitting there at all times.
Yeah, which Todd Mcfarlane has plenty of. He does plenty of sexy ladies in his comics. And then once I got older and I got into like actually learning the lore about Spawn, and you're like, oh, this character, there's a lot of depth and storytelling in these comics, and you're like, oh wow, like it's funny because when you're a kid, you're just like I'm just interested in like the bright lights, right? But then once you get a little older and they're a little bit more, you're a little smarter, then you can appreciate the smaller other things, you know what I mean? That kind of fly over your head.
It's funny though, like I feel like you're right. It's deep and it's way more engaging, but at the same time, like I think about like Power Rangers, which is like has like that sizzle up front of like, oh, how cool, giant monster robots. But then there's zero depth to it. But it's also way more popular. Like it's insanely popular all around the world. Yeah, maybe that's because it has that lack of depth makes it more accessible to different regions and stuff.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. I agree with you, but also they do sneak in these like kind of like virtual signal things where for kids, because I remember there was one episode where Kimberly was the Pink Ranger, right?
Yeah.
Who was the Red Ranger? Who was the Yellow Ranger? What was her name again?
I think it was Trini. I think her name was Trini.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even a real
name. God bless her. She passed away in a car accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyways, there was an episode where she's like fighting this like giant makeup lipstick head monster thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the episode was about her being self-conscious about like dressing up and looking good for like everybody, and she was like fighting her demons. So it's just like there's like a little bit of like that's some clever writing. It's like, oh, she's like fighting her demons almost.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a kid, you're just like, I just want to see her punch the monster in the face.
Yeah.
And so like even though like that happens where it's just like you're just like bells and whistles, like there's still some sort of like creativeness in the writing, and even though but there could be a thing where you ever notice sometimes when you're a kid you just like things for liking them, and then when you go back to them you're like, oh, this is why I liked it, and there was like a little bit more depth to it because you can kind of understand it more. But when you're a kid,
there's more depth, sometimes there's less when you go back and look.
I think when you're a kid sometimes you'll just like something because it's just like it's candy or like Doritos. You just want to shove it in your face. You just want to consume it. And then some other times you'll do the same thing with something, but you don't know why. And then when you go back to it, you're like, oh, you liked the artistry, or liked how it felt, how you played that one game, or like you liked the silliness of it, or the art style or whatever. There's I don't know, even like kids, as stupid as they are.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I was dumb. I almost said retarded. Don't say retarded. And
just because you can't explain why you like it.
Yeah,
you just like the litmus test that there's clear.
Where you just can't put your pulse on it, but you enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's still, and even if you're making something where you're like, oh, I'm just making something because you want it to be cool and you want to sell it. If you put the time and effort and you put those little things where like it's the writing and there's some cleverness to it and there's some spirit and soul to it, the life expectancy I think lasts longer on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It comes through. Okay, I gotta wrap this up. I gotta move on with my day.
Todd Mcfarlane and whatnot.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna watch that documentary because Todd. I like Todd.
It was good. He's also kind of like a maniac as well, so that's another.
Yeah.
He bought a baseball for like over $2 million.
He's
and you know why he bought it?
Because he has that much money lying around.
No, he wanted to show people because he makes. Sorry, I know we're supposed to wrap this up. We'll wrap it up right after this one stint. He bought all these like sports memorabilia because he wanted to show. Because he wanted to make toys, action figures, sculptures for sports, for baseball, hockey, football. Because Todd Mcfarlane, he makes also sports stuff.
Yeah.
And to show people that have the licenses for like for the athletes and like the logos and stuff like that, he had to show them like, hey, I'm not a fucking scrub. I'm gonna throw millions of dollars at something that I actually enjoy and love, and to show you that I mean business, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's one element where you can show to your patrons or to your fans or like to your community where it's like, hey, I really love this stuff, and look what I'm doing, look what I'm investing in. Like I love this, you know what I mean? Yeah. So Todd McFarlane was not just a comic book artist; he was also like a fan, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's about it. Okay, Alex, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining another episode of Playing the Artist, a show we talk about our major boners for Todd McFarlane and our projects and our hopes and dreams and desires. And you can catch our episodes Tuesday every 8 o'clock. Every 8 o'clock? That doesn't make sense.
At not 8 every o'clock. 8 o'clock. Only the AM ones.
Only what?
Or only one 8 o'clock actually. 8 a.m. on Tuesday.
Yeah, just Tuesday. That's what I said.
Yeah, you said every 8 o'clock. There's one at Tuesday evening too, but not that one.
What?
Never mind.
Well, okay, jeepers. Why did you throw me on my groove? Anyways,
that's what I do.
Anyways, usually we do this at 7, but it's at 8 because of quarantine. And please follow us or leave us a like or leave a comment, or maybe you're like, hey, what about this? And maybe we have some experience on it, and maybe we can answer the question or dive deeper on it. Alex, where can we find you? Patreon.com/TigerSkullRPG. There you will find my models. Every month I'm coming out with a new RPG character that you can print and play. Damn right you are. They're ready to go. You don't have to, think of your own stats and stuff. It's all there. So that's where I would direct people to. If you just want to check out my art, then just Jesus Christ! I don't want an explanation. Just tell me where I can find you. Well, I want to give some context here. Oh, you just talked for like 18 minutes. So. I did. I was babbling. I was a chatty Cathy. Yeah. Also Instagram /TigerSkullRPG. Go there as well. All right. And you may or may not find Sam. You may or may not find Sam. I feel like I talk too much. You know where to find me. Forbidden Prince, look it up. Be there or be an Octagon. I don't give a shit. Alex, this was a pretty good episode. Tomorrow, I think I'll have some topics for us to talk about. Ooh, topics. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. A topic, and we'll try to stick to that one topic, and then hopefully it will fill up the whole episode. Sweet. Yeah. I like that. All right. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Good one. Okay. Good day. Bye-bye. Ciao.